Okay, everyone, I'm just going to run through a few things in Tinkercad for you, a few common mistakes and all of that good stuff. So, something to know. And I have something here made already, so we aren't completely fumbling through things. But when you're going to put something on, you're going to just drag it on, zoom out because that's awfully huge. If you want to adjust its height, make sure that you're on the box. And we want the height of all of our projects today to be 2 millimeters. So making sure that we're on that box, we're going to shrink it down to 2. You can change the size by grabbing this corner and dragging. You can adjust how it's spun by going around in a circle like that. No matter what you do, and I'm going to drag another box out here just so you can see what I mean. You have to be really careful that you don't lift things so that they're hovered above your board, because if you try to put that down on something else and they're not connected, it's going to make a problem. So as you can see, we're 6 millimeters above. We can see that by hovering on the triangle. So we're going to grab the triangle and drag it down to 0. And if I look under, I can see that it's sitting on the plane. And if I hover over this triangle here, I can see that it's at 0 millimeters. If I pull it down below the plane, it's going to go to negative millimeters. I want it to be at 0 millimeters so that I know that it's not poking down through the plane, because that gets really confusing for the 3D printer. Another thing to know, these arrows around the outside can indicate it can either spin it flat or it can put things up at an angle. Okay, and as you can see, this time we put ourselves up at an angle. So part of our shape is below the plane and part of our shape is above the plane. That is not good. If we try to print that, the machine is going to get confused. If we try to drag this, oops, that's not going to work. If we try to drag it and put it onto another shape and think that we're going to print it together, once again, the printer is going to get really confused because we've got this chunk that's hanging out below and we have this chunk that's hanging out above. We can put them together so that we have pieces that stick up, but we have to make sure that it's not below the plane like this. So, and for the sake of our feet, we're not really going to want to do that anyway. So on to our feet. So we make sure, I've got a shape started over here, and I can make sure that it's flat. By checking below. Here, let me delete this thing and get it out of the way. Sometimes deleting things, if you really get hung up and they're tilted and you can't get them to stay flat, deleting them and starting over is the best way. But I have a shape that I've made, and I look at it from the side, and I see that no pieces are taller than other pieces. If I continue to look at it from below, I see that all the pieces are at 0, which means that nothing is actually hanging below the plane. That's very, very important. In order to make this act as one piece, I'm going to click and highlight them all, and then I'm going to click Group. And now they're going to all behave as one piece, and that's exactly what I want. If I want a hole, I want something to be clipped out of it, like for example, maybe I want this cylinder hole. Now, right now that's very big, and I'm going to shrink it by grabbing these corners and drag it where I want it. And now if I group it with the hole in there, it's going to actually pop a hole in my object. So that's how that works as well. Okay, but once again, if I were to go back and ungroup, and I don't know what's going to happen because I put a hole in it. Well, undo. We'll just leave it the way it was. I had to make sure everything was flat. I had to make sure everything was the same height. I had to make sure that nothing was hanging below the plane. And again, out of all of that, and then making sure that you group it, and I showed you how to put a hole in your object. Okay, that's all.